Welcome to Modernizing Old Hymns. I'm going to try a little something here today. Last time I talked about the hexatonic scale. Instead of an 8-note scale, like we usually think of, it was a 7-note scale. One of the reasons I used it is I mentioned that the second to the last note as you go up the scale, in the key of C, that would be the B. That's a pesky note, I said. One of the reasons it's a pesky note is that if you hit it accidentally, yeah, it can sound pretty sour. If you're playing a C chord and you accidentally hit that B note, it's sour. If you play an F chord, you accidentally hit that B note, it's sour. So I'd like to carry that one step further today. One of the reasons it sounds sour is because there's just a half step difference between the B and the C. There's also a half step difference between the E and the F. So why don't we get rid of that F note too? If you do that, you're playing something that's called the pentatonic scale. And people still use the pentatonic scale today. You can look up pentatonic scale on YouTube here, and you'll see that sometimes when a popular musician is he's playing his verse and he's done and he goes into this chorus that's real easy to sing along with, that may be the pentatonic scale right there. Because it's easier to sing along with. So I want to look at this pentatonic scale to make things easier, not just for children's songs, for people who may not be used to congregational singing. But as I've always said through this course, is if you want the congregation to sing along, make it easy for the congregation to sing along. So let's see if we can start some singing up with this sort of thing. Now, the pentatonic scale has been around for a long time, and so I got one of these to help me with my work on the pentatonic scale. This is a pentatonic lyre. Okay, you see it's got 7 strings. It actually has 2 scales on it. What I mean by that is it's really kind of ingenious, the way they did this. If you start here, you've got a major scale. It's not the major scale as we usually think of it. It's the Mixolydian scale. This is actually in the key of G, but I played from D to D. Sound a little bit Chinesey to you? The ancient Chinese used the Mixolydian pentatonic scale. Does it sound a little wind chimey to you? A lot of wind chimes have got 5 chimes tuned to the pentatonic scale. And then there's that extra note they added on top. If I start there and play the 6 strings, I've got a minor scale, the E minor pentatonic scale. So it really was very ingenious of the people who invented this instrument centuries ago to put 7 strings on here, so you get both a major scale and a minor scale. The lyre is, of course, mentioned in the Bible. Very old instrument. To be fair, in those days it would have been quite a bit bigger. It would have had strings made out of gut, not steel, and it would have played in a lower pitch. Now let's talk about the tuning of this instrument. This is what I'm calling standard tuning. The 7 strings are tuned to D, E, G, A, B, D, E, which of course spells the word DGABD. If that doesn't help you, how about don't ever grab a big dog's ears? Okay, guitar players, does this tuning look familiar to you? Yeah, some of you play other instruments like the violin, you may see some relationship there too. This is really a kind of a compromise tuning here. Not only does it play one major, one minor scale, but it can play more than one key. It's basically got the key of D here, D mixolydian, not a perfect D major scale. It's actually tuned to G, but it's only got one G note in it. So that makes some songs impossible to play in the key of G, but others are still okay. There are, of course, other tunings. If you take this G and tune it down to an F sharp, then you've got a more conventional D scale. Pentatonic still, of course. The D chord does contain an F sharp in it. Okay, if you instead take this B and tune it up to a C, then you've got a C tuning. So it doesn't take much to get different tunings out of this instrument. Okay, now I've seen people on the internet just set this instrument down on the table and play it like this. If you play it in the classical way, you set it on your lap. And you can reach the strings with your left hand. Unlike with the most fretted instruments where you play the strings you put your fingers on, you use your fingers to dampen the strings on this so they don't play. It has chords, okay? Just like on the guitar, the two prettiest sounding chords are the G and the E minor. So let me give this a try here. My favorite way of playing instruments is play the melody note first and then follow it with the chord. Again, I picked up the cheapest one I could find. This is really a child's instrument. I'll probably screw it up anyway, though. I gave it a try. All the other techniques I've showed you with stringed instruments work on this too. You can play up to the melody note. You can play the melody with your index finger and a counter melody lower than that. Or you can play the melody with your thumb, play a counter melody higher with your index finger. Another thing is, because both those half steps are missing, it really doesn't have too sour a sound to it if you just play everything. Okay, so. Okay, enough of that fooling around here. If you really want to see what a lyre's supposed to sound like, look up Pentatonic lyre. Lyre is spelled Lyre, and listen to some real players here. There's some fantastic Irish pentatonic lyre players on YouTube here. They do a beautiful job. No wonder the instrument has been around for centuries. So what I did is I took 24 hymns and I used a formula to convert them to the pentatonic scale. And I really kind of like the way they turned out as far as singability goes. Singing along with them. It sounds pretty nice. Let me show you one of the hymns right here, the way it looks in the download. Now, I did this in a simplified form of ABC notation. You may think of the B note as being a blob in the middle of 5 lines. It really doesn't take too long to get used to thinking of it as the letter B. So you give it a try, and if you're trying to get into music theory, you might find notation like this useful sometimes. If anybody does want a regular music notation of this, let me know. It shouldn't take too long for me to work it up. But okay, I have explanations in the download as well, but sometimes it's easier just to explain things in person. You see here what I've got here is D Ionian. Actually, in standard tuning, it's D Mixolydian, but I call it D Ionian because I use the chords for D Ionian anyway. Ionian today is commonly called major, and that's all. If you look at the chords I put down here, you see they're really fancy chords. There's an E7th chord in here somewhere. Yeah, the chords I put in are really more like what you would see in a modern day hymnal. And I made it easy for the congregation to sing along. I didn't necessarily make it easier for the instrumentalist to play along. Okay, if you want to use more traditional chords that you would play on a lyre, I put them up here. Here I have D, A, and B minor. Okay, and it's not too hard to figure out where to put them. If you see an E note, the E note belongs only to the A chord here, so play an A chord if you see an E note. If you see a B note, play the B minor chord, and you'll have a more traditional arrangement of this. But I think at least the congregation would enjoy singing with a more complicated background. The notes are easy, but the background doesn't necessarily have to be. Okay. I also did things like I tried, just like on a lyre you would have to do, tried to condense the songs down to just 1 octave range. Okay, Silent Night is a lot easier to sing this way. I'm kind of surprised, like it's a sing-along song, and Silent Night kind of turned out sounding like a cowboy song. I like it. I worked on the Dugratch for a couple of summers. Okay, another thing I did is I simplified timing where I could. A Mighty Fortress is in 4/4 time. I use the same timing in my banjo arrangement that you can also find on my channel here. I arranged O Sacred Head Now Wounded into 6/4 time. I think that makes it much easier for somebody to sing along with if it's got a regular timing, right? And what I'll be doing is I'll be playing all these hymns in my next video. I'll be just playing them one after another so you can see what they sound like in the pentatonic scale. I'll probably be playing them on my banjo, and I might do a little more experimenting to it. Sometimes I'll use the hexatonic scale. I plan on doing that for a couple of them. One final note on music theory here. If you're looking at this and you see those notes in the brackets, well, I can play more complicated than that. I'll play both, okay, the F sharp and the G when I'm playing the music. If you do that, it's funny how this music theory works. If you do that, then you're playing with the hexatonic scale. And if you go the other way around and you say, oh, I'm just going to play D when I see those notes at the brackets there, and I'm just going to play D, then you're using what's called the tetronic scale. You've got a scale with just 5 notes in it if you go from do to do. I once heard a video of the simplest scales to be found in the world are just 2 notes. Believe it or not, I heard a video of a native from a very southern tip of South America once singing a song in just 2 notes. Personally, I find that fascinating. A jazz musician would probably not survive it, but you can experiment with any number of notes in a scale. The tetronic scale, if it were in the key of C, would be the notes C, D, G, and A, and then of course it repeats again at C. That's something you might try and experiment with too if you're interested in music theory. I'm hoping to put 1 song in the tetronic scale in the redoing. If you want to play them on the lyre for really, I've got chord diagrams for the lyre in 3 different tunings. Let me just mention too the book I printed up. I just printed this out on Lulu. You can order it from there, Hymns for Every Day. It's just music on one side, words with chords on the other side. So anybody can play these hymns in there. There's 100 of them in there. Anybody can just play these hymns on their instrument. So watch for the download in the description down there pretty soon, and in a few days too. I hope to play through all those hymns in a row. Believe it or not, it'll be the first video I've made without any talking in it. So enjoy it, and thank you for watching.